When a crime boss throws his pregnant wife into a hurricane based on his mistress's lies, he expects her to vanish. He doesn't expect her to survive, give birth in the storm, and spend years quietly destroying everything he built. Victor Raines thought Elise Hart would die that night, broken, betrayed, and forgotten. But some women don't break. They sharpen themselves on betrayal and come back as something far more dangerous than any man with a gun. If you want to see how far a mother's vengeance can reach, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city, so I can see how far this story travels. The hurricane hit the coastline like a fist through glass. Rain hammered the cliffside mansion in sheets so thick the ocean below disappeared into gray nothing. Wind screamed through the cypress trees, bending them nearly horizontal, ripping loose shutters and deck furniture and hurling them into the void. The house, a sprawling modern fortress of steel and stone, shuddered with each gust, its floor-to-ceiling windows rattling in their frames like chattering teeth. Inside, Elise Hart stood in the great room, one hand pressed to the small of her aching back, the other cradling the tight swell of her belly. 8 months pregnant. The baby had been kicking all day, restless and insistent, as if he could sense the storm coming. She'd spent the afternoon preparing, filling bathtubs with water, charging flashlights, moving candles to every room. Victor's security team had locked down the perimeter, boarding windows and activating backup generators. Standard protocol when weather turned violent. What she hadn't prepared for was the sound of Victor's Escalade tearing up the driveway at 70 miles an hour, spraying gravel like shrapnel. Elise's stomach dropped. He wasn't supposed to be here. Victor had left 3 days ago for Miami. Meetings, he'd said, the kind that required his personal attention. He never cut business short. Never. And he certainly never drove like a man fleeing something. The front door exploded inward. Victor Raines entered like a natural disaster of his own making. 6'3", broad-shouldered, moving with the coiled energy of a boxer between rounds. His tailored suit was soaked, rain dripping from his dark hair, and his face, that handsome, brutal face that had once made Elise's heart race, was set in an expression she'd seen before. The look he wore when someone owed him money they'd never pay back. When accounts needed settling. Victor. Elise took an instinctive step back. What's wrong? What happened? He didn't answer, didn't even look at her, because he wasn't alone. Marla Voss stepped through the doorway behind him, and Elise's blood turned to ice water. Marla. Victor's latest acquisition. 26 years old, model tall, with platinum hair that fell in perfect waves past her shoulders, and a body poured into a white silk dress that clung like a second skin despite the rain. She moved with the languid confidence of a woman who'd never been told no, who'd never had to fight for anything because men simply gave her what she wanted. Elise had met her exactly twice, both times at Victor's side during business dinners, where Marla draped herself over him like expensive jewelry. Both times, Marla had looked at Elise with barely concealed amusement, the way you'd look at outdated furniture someone had forgotten to replace. Victor. Elise's voice came out smaller than she intended. Why is she here? Marla's smile was all teeth. Hello, Elise. Love what you've done with the place. Very domestic. Victor crossed to the bar without a word, poured 3 fingers of scotch, and drank it in one swallow. His knuckles were white around the glass. Outside, lightning split the sky, turning the windows into sheets of white fire. Thunder followed immediately, a bone-deep boom that rattled the chandelier. I asked you a question. Elise forced herself to stand straighter, to push past the fear crawling up her spine. What's going on? Victor finally looked at her. His eyes were flat, empty, the way they got before he hurt someone. How long? His voice was quiet, deadly quiet. How long what? How long have you been feeding information to the feds? The words hit like a slap. Elise actually stumbled, catching herself on the arm of the sofa. What? Victor, I haven't. Don't. He slammed the glass down so hard it cracked. Don't you fucking lie to me. I'm not lying. Her heart was hammering now, genuine panic flooding her system. I don't know what you're talking about. I would never. Show her, Victor said. Marla's smile widened. She pulled out her phone, the latest model, encased in rose gold, and tapped the screen. Then she crossed the room, heels clicking on the marble floor, and held it out to Elise. This was recorded 2 weeks ago, Marla said sweetly. Outside the federal building downtown. That is you, isn't it? Elise took the phone with shaking hands. The audio was tinny but clear. A woman's voice, her voice, she realized with dawning horror, speaking in low, urgent tones. I can get you the wire transfers, offshore accounts in the Caymans, but I need protection for my baby. Full immunity, witness protection, the works. Victor can never know I was the source. Another voice, male, official sounding. We can arrange that, Mrs. Raines. Once we verify the information, I'm not Mrs. Raines anymore, her voice cut in. After this, I want nothing to do with that name. Nothing to do with him. The recording ended. Elise stared at the phone, her mind reeling. This isn't real. Victor, this isn't... I've never been to the federal building. I've never spoken to any agents. This is fake. Fake. Victor laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. You think I'm stupid? That's your voice, Elise. Your fucking voice. It's not. She thrust the phone back at Marla. It's doctored. It's AI or editing or... Victor, please, you have to listen to me. I would never betray you. Never. You're my husband. You're... Stop talking. He closed the distance between them in 3 strides. Up close, she could smell the scotch on his breath, see the muscle ticking in his jaw. 5 years. 5 years I gave you everything. This house, security, my name, and the whole time you were planning to put a knife in my back. No. Tears blurred her vision. No, Victor, I swear. The feds raided 3 of my warehouses this morning. Simultaneous strikes. They knew exactly where to look, exactly what they'd find. 4 of my guys are in custody. 40 million in product, gone. Someone gave them that information, Elise. It wasn't me. Then who? He grabbed her arm, not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to make his point. Who else knows those locations? Who else has access to my schedule, my meetings, my fucking life? I don't know. She was crying openly now, huge gasping sobs that made her belly tighten painfully. Victor, please, look at me. Look at me. You know me. You know I wouldn't... I thought I knew you. He released her arm, stepping back like touching her disgusted him. Apparently I was wrong. Marla had settled herself on the sofa, legs crossed, watching the whole scene with the rapt attention of someone enjoying a particularly good movie. I told you, she said to Victor. I told you she was playing you, but you didn't want to believe it. Shut up, Elise snarled. She turned back to Victor, desperate. Can't you see what she's doing? She's trying to turn you against me. That recording is fake, Victor. Get it analyzed. Run it through your tech people. They'll prove... I already did. Victor's voice was ice. My best guy looked at it. He says it's clean. No signs of tampering. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Elise's feet. Then he's lying, or he's working with her. Victor, please. Enough. He turned away, running a hand through his wet hair. I don't want to hear any more of your bullshit. Outside, the wind reached a new pitch, a howling, shrieking thing that sounded almost alive. Something heavy crashed against the house, a tree branch maybe, or part of the terrace furniture. Elise pressed both hands to her belly, feeling the baby move. Miles. She'd already picked the name, though she hadn't told Victor yet. Miles, because it meant soldier, protector, because she'd wanted their son to be strong. What are you going to do? She whispered. Victor poured another scotch. Haven't decided yet. Kill her, Marla said pleasantly. That's what you do to traitors, isn't it? That's what you told me. No one betrays Victor Raines and lives to talk about it. Marla, there was a warning in his voice. I'm just saying. She examined her nails, perfect white crescents. If you let her walk, what message does that send? That you're soft? That pregnancy makes you weak? Your enemies will eat you alive. I'm not your enemy, Elise's voice cracked. Victor, I'm your wife. I'm carrying your child. Are you? Marla cocked her head. Because I have to wonder, if you've been meeting with federal agents, who else have you been meeting with? How do we know that baby is even Victor's? The accusation was so absurd, so vicious, that for a moment Elise couldn't breathe. You bitch! Marla's smile never wavered. Victor's had that vasectomy reversed for what, 6 months? And suddenly you're pregnant? Convenient timing. Victor, Elise's voice shook. Tell her she's wrong. But Victor said nothing. He stood at the window, staring out at the storm, his reflection ghostly in the rain-streaked glass. And in that silence, Elise understood. He wanted to believe it. Wanted an excuse to be rid of her, the wife who'd become boring, who'd traded cocktail dresses for maternity clothes, who spent her days reading pregnancy books instead of looking decorative at his arm. Marla was offering him a way out, gift wrapped in betrayal and doubt. Fine, Elise straightened, wiping her eyes. Her hands were shaking, but her voice came out steady. You want me gone? I'll go. Tonight. I'll pack a bag. I'll leave. And you'll never have to see me again. Just let me go, Victor. Please. For what we had, if nothing else, just let me go. Oh, sweetie, Marla stood, smoothing her dress. That's not how this works. You don't get to walk away clean. You don't get to disappear and start a nice little life somewhere with Victor's money and Victor's secrets in your head. I don't want his money, Elise's voice rose. I don't want anything. I just want… Victor. Marla moved to his side, running one manicured hand up his arm. Baby, you know what needs to happen here. You know what she deserves. Victor's jaw tightened. I'm not killing a pregnant woman. I'm not saying kill her. Marla's voice dropped to something soft, persuasive. I'm saying teach her a lesson. Show her what happens when someone betrays you. Make sure she understands the cost. Marla, or don't. She shrugged. Let her go. And when she testifies against you, when she puts you in prison for the rest of your life, remember that I warned you. Remember that I tried to protect you, and you chose her instead. Lightning flashed again, thunder. The lights flickered. Victor turned from the window, looked at Elise. His expression was unreadable. Please, Elise whispered. Victor, please. If you ever loved me, I did love you. His voice was quiet, almost sad. That's what makes this so much worse. He moved fast. Elise didn't have time to run, to scream, to do anything but gasp as his hand closed around her upper arm and he dragged her toward the terrace doors. She stumbled, her pregnant belly throwing off her balance, and pain shot through her lower back. Victor, stop, please! He unlocked the terrace doors with his free hand. Wind exploded into the room, bringing rain and the smell of ozone and salt. The storm was a living thing out there, a howling, raging beast that wanted to devour everything. Victor, no, no! He shoved her through the doorway. The wind hit her like a truck. Elise's feet slid on the wet stone, and she went down hard on her hands and knees. Rain soaked through her clothes in seconds, heavy, cold drops that felt like fists. She couldn't see, couldn't breathe, could barely hear her own screams over the roar of the storm. She crawled back toward the doors. Victor, please! Through the rain, she saw him standing in the doorway. Marla beside him, her arm around his waist, her head on his shoulder, watching. I'm sorry, Elise, Victor said. Or maybe he didn't say it. Maybe she just read his lips. But you did this to yourself. The doors slammed shut. Elise threw herself against them, pounding with both fists. Victor, Victor, please, the baby. Think about the baby. She saw him turn the lock, saw him close the curtains, saw the lights inside warm and safe and utterly unreachable. No, no, please, please don't do this. Lightning turned the world white. Thunder shook the terrace beneath her, and Elise understood with a clarity that cut through the panic that she was going to die out here. Victor had thrown her away, literally thrown her into a hurricane, left her to drown or freeze or be blown off the cliff into the rocks below. And when the storm passed, he'd tell people she'd run, or snapped, or disappeared. No one would question it. Victor Raines didn't answer to anyone. Another contraction hit. Harder than before, a vicious band of pain that wrapped around her entire midsection and squeezed. Elise doubled over, gasping. Too early. It was too early. She had 4 weeks left. The baby wasn't ready. This couldn't be happening. The contraction passed. She forced herself upright, clinging to the door handle. Her hair was plastered to her face, her clothes heavy with rain. She could barely feel her hands. Think. She had to think. The terrace wrapped around 3 sides of the house. If she could get to the side entrance, the door that led to the mudroom, maybe it was unlocked. Maybe she could get back inside. Elise pushed away from the door, using the wall for support. The wind tried to tear her away, but she held on, moving inch by inch along the terrace. Her feet were numb. Everything was numb except her belly, which had gone tight and hard again. Not now. Please, not now. She rounded the corner. The side terrace was narrower, more exposed. A patio chair shot past her head, missing by inches, and exploded against the railing. Elise screamed, "Keep moving! Just keep moving!" The mudroom door, she could see it, 20 feet, 15. Another contraction slammed into her. This one drove her to her knees. She felt something give way inside her, a wet warmth between her legs that had nothing to do with the rain. Her water had broken. "No," the word came out as a sob. "No, no, no, please." She crawled. There was no dignity left, no pride, nothing but animal desperation. Crawled through the rain and wind, through the pain that was building and building, until her fingers touched the mudroom door handle. Locked. Elise wanted to scream, to rage, to pound against the door until her hands broke. But she couldn't. Couldn't waste the energy. The baby was coming. Right now, in the middle of a hurricane, 8 months pregnant and completely alone, the baby was coming. She dragged herself to the corner where the terrace met the wall, the only spot with any shelter from the wind. Wedged herself there, knees pulled up as much as her belly allowed. Rain poured over her. Lightning turned everything into nightmare snapshots, flashes of terror separated by drowning darkness. The contractions were coming faster now, 2 minutes apart, 90 seconds. She was going to give birth in a hurricane. She was going to die in a hurricane. No. No. The word became a mantra, something to hold on to. She would not die. Would not let her son die. Victor could lock the doors, could turn his back, could choose his horror over his wife, but he could not kill her. Would not kill her. Elise pressed both hands to her belly. "Hold on," she whispered. "Just hold on, baby. We're going to be okay. Mommy's going to get us out of here, I promise. I promise." The baby kicked, and Elise began to plan. The gates. If she could get to the front gates, she could get out. They were locked, but there was an override panel. She'd watched security use it 100 times, a 6-digit code that opened everything. Victor's birthday, backward. It was insane. The gates were a quarter-mile down the driveway. In this storm, pregnant, in labor, it was suicide. But staying here was certain death. Another contraction. Elise bit through her lip, tasting blood. When it passed, she started moving. Not crawling this time, standing, using the wall, the railing, anything she could grab. Moving like a woman possessed because she was possessed by the absolute certainty that she would not die on this terrace, would not let Victor Raines be the last thing she saw. The driveway was gravel. Every step sent sharp stones biting through her bare feet. She'd lost her shoes somewhere. Didn't matter. Nothing mattered except forward. The wind was worse out here, away from the house. It grabbed her like giant hands, trying to lift her, throw her. Elise walked bent nearly double, one arm wrapped around her belly, the other reaching out blindly. Lightning showed her cypress trees bending like grass, showed her the ocean far below, massive waves exploding against the cliff, showed her how far she still had to go. She fell, hit the gravel hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. For a moment she just lay there, unable to move, unable to think. Rain filled her mouth. She was so cold, so tired. The baby kicked again, harder this time, angry. Elise laughed, actually laughed, a sound that was half sob. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, baby, I hear you." She got up. The gates appeared out of the rain like a miracle. Iron. 12 feet tall. Beautiful and terrible. Elise slammed into them, fingers scrabbling for the override panel. There, the little metal box, water streaming over its keypad. Victor's birthday backward. 190872. She punched in the numbers. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to try 3 times. The panel beeped. The gate shuddered. Nothing happened. "No." Elise hit the panel with her fist. "No, no, no!" She tried again. Same code. The panel beeped. The gates didn't move. He'd changed it. Of course he'd changed it. Probably the second he threw her outside, making sure she couldn't escape. Elise's legs gave out. She collapsed against the gates, clinging to the iron bars, and for the first time she let herself really, truly despair. This was it. This was how it ended. She'd made it so far, fought so hard, but it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. A contraction hit, the worst one yet. It felt like her body was tearing itself apart. Elise heard herself screaming, a raw animal sound that the storm swallowed instantly. When it passed, she was lying in the gravel, Rain pooled around her. She couldn't feel her hands anymore. Couldn't feel anything except the pain building again, the baby pressing down, demanding to be born. Here. She was going to give birth here, in the mud and rain, and they were both going to die. Headlights. At first Elise thought she was hallucinating, but no. There, coming up the road beyond the gates, a black SUV, moving too fast for the conditions, hydroplaning on the flooded pavement. She tried to stand, couldn't, tried to scream, no sound came out. The SUV skidded to a stop. The driver's door opened. A man got out. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with military precision despite the wind. He ran to the gates. Jesus Christ! His voice was rough, deep. Ma'am? Ma'am, can you hear me? Elise managed to lift her head. Help, she croaked. Please, help me. Hold on. He grabbed the gates, testing them, locked solid. He swore. I'm going to get you out of there. Just hold on. He ran back to the SUV, returned with a crowbar. Move back if you can, he shouted over the storm. Elise crawled backward. The man wedged the crowbar into the gate mechanism and threw his whole weight against it. Nothing. He tried again. The gates groaned but held. Bish. Fuck this. He dropped the crowbar, grabbed the gates with both hands, and pulled. The gates screamed. Metal shrieked against metal. And slowly, impossibly, they began to bend. Not much. Just enough. A gap maybe 18 inches wide. Come on. He reached through, extending his hand. You have to help me. Come on. Elise crawled forward. His hand closed around her wrist, strong, calloused, absolutely certain. He pulled. She pushed. For one horrible moment, she thought she was stuck, thought her belly was too big, but then she was through, collapsing in the mud on the other side. The man scooped her up like she weighed nothing, carried her to the SUV and put her in the back seat, slammed the door against the wind. Hospital, Elise gasped. Need hospital. Which one? He was already climbing into the driver's seat, starting the engine. No. She grabbed his shoulder. Not St. Catherine's, not Mercy General. He owns them. He'll find me. The man looked at her in the rearview mirror. His eyes were gray, steady. Who will find you? My husband. Another contraction. Elise's fingers dug into the seat. He did this. He locked me out. He wants me dead. Something flickered across the man's face. Understanding, rage, decision. Okay, he said quietly. Not a hospital. I know a place. A clinic. Off the books. They'll take care of you. The baby. It's too early. They'll take care of you both. He threw the SUV into gear. My name's Nolan. Nolan Pierce. What's yours? Elise, she whispered. Elise Hart. Okay, Elise Hart. Hold on tight. The SUV roared into the storm. The clinic was a converted warehouse in the industrial district, the kind of place that didn't advertise and didn't ask questions. Nolan carried Elise through a side entrance while rain hammered the corrugated metal roof like machine gun fire. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed over concrete floors painted institutional gray. The smell hit her immediately. Antiseptic, bleach, and beneath it something organic and sharp. Blood, maybe. Or fear. A woman in scrubs appeared from a back room. 50s, steel gray hair pulled into a tight bun. The kind of face that had seen everything and been surprised by none of it. Nolan. Her voice was flat, professional. What do we have? Full-term pregnancy, water broke, contractions 2 minutes apart. He laid Elise on a gurney that had appeared from somewhere. She needs immediate care. The woman's eyes swept over Elise, taking in the soaked clothes, the bare feet, the way Elise's hands clutched her belly. Who did this to you? Does it matter? Elise's voice came out in gasps. Can you help my baby? I can try. The woman grabbed the gurney. Nolan, wait outside. I'll stay. You'll wait outside. She was already pushing Elise down a hallway. Unless you've developed medical training in the last 6 months. Elise caught a glimpse of Nolan's face, frustrated, worried, before the doors swung shut between them. The delivery room was small but clean. Medical equipment that looked newer than the building itself lined the walls. The woman worked fast, stripping away Elise's wet clothes, covering her with warm blankets, checking vitals with practiced efficiency. "My name's Dr. Sarah Chen," she said, wrapping a blood pressure cuff around Elise's arm. "I'm going to take care of you, but I need you to be honest with me. Are you running from someone?" "My husband." "Does he know you're here?" "No?" Another contraction. Elise gritted her teeth. "He thinks I'm dead." Dr. Chen's expression didn't change. "Good. Let's keep it that way." She moved to examine Elise, her touch gentle but thorough. "You're at 7 centimeters. Baby's in position. This is going to happen fast." "It's too early." Tears leaked from the corners of Elise's eyes. 4 weeks too early. What if something's wrong? 36 weeks isn't too early. It's borderline, but babies are born healthy at 36 weeks all the time. Dr. Chen's voice was calm. "Comes, I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to push." The next 3 contractions come. "I need you to comes. I need you to push." The next 3 hours blurred into a nightmare of pain and effort. Elise had read the books, taken the classes, thought she understood what labor meant. She'd understood nothing. This was her body turning inside out, every muscle screaming, while Dr. Chen's voice cut through the haze with commands that Elise obeyed on pure instinct. Push. Breathe. Push again. Somewhere in the middle of it, Elise started laughing. Actual laughter, edged with hysteria because this was insane. She was giving birth in an illegal clinic while her husband thought she was dying in a hurricane. She didn't know the name of the man who'd saved her, didn't know where she was or what would happen after this. All she knew was the pain in Dr. Chen's voice and the absolute certainty that she would not quit. Not now. Not ever. "One more push, doctor," Chen said. "Come on, Elise, one more." Elise bore down with everything she had left. And then, crying. Not her crying, a baby's cry. High and angry and absolutely perfect. "It's a boy!" Dr. Chen lifted him, and Elise saw her son for the first time. Tiny, red-faced, covered in vernix and blood and screaming his fury at the world, the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. "Miles," Elise whispered. "His name is Miles." "Doctor." Chen cleaned him quickly, efficiently, then placed him on Elise's chest, skin to skin. His crying stopped almost immediately. He was warm, solid, real. His eyes, dark blue, unfocused, opened and seemed to look right at her. "Hi, baby," Elise whispered. Her voice broke. "Hi, I'm your mama. I'm your mama and I love you and I'm going to keep you safe. I promise. No matter what it takes." Miles made a small sound, not quite a cry, something softer. Elise pressed her lips to his forehead and felt something fundamental shift inside her. Everything before this moment, the mansion, the marriage, even the terror of the last few hours, suddenly felt like prologue. This was the story. This tiny, perfect person in her arms. Victor could rot in hell. Dr. Chen finished the delivery, cleaned Elise up, and brought her water and something that looked like hospital food but tasted like heaven. Elise ate mechanically, unable to take her eyes off Miles. He'd fallen asleep on her chest, one tiny fist curled against her collarbone. "He's healthy," Dr. Chen said. 5 pounds, 8 ounces, good weight for 36 weeks, lungs are clear, no signs of distress. You did good. Thank you." The words felt inadequate. I can't pay you, not right now. Everything I had, Nolan already paid." Dr. Chen pulled up a chair. "And before you ask, no, I don't know how he affords it. I learned a long time ago not to ask questions about Nolan Pierce. Who is he?" "Someone who helps people." Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly. "He showed up here about 2 years ago. Brings me people who can't go to regular hospitals, runaways, assault victims, people in witness protection who aren't quite protected enough. He pays in cash, he doesn't leave trails, and he's never once asked me to do anything illegal. This clinic is completely legal. I have a license. All my equipment is registered, I just don't advertise, and I don't report to anyone I don't have to." She paused. "Your husband, is he someone Nolan should be worried about?" Elise looked down at Miles. "My husband is someone everyone should be worried about." "Does he have a name?" "Victor Rains." Dr. Chen's face went carefully blank. "The Victor Rains." "Yes." "Jesus." Dr. Chen stood, paced to the window, looked out at the rain that was finally starting to ease. "You're the wife who disappeared. It's already on the news. They're saying you walked out during the storm, that you might have—" She stopped. "Might have what?" "Killed yourself." Dr. Chen turned back. "Victor held a press conference 3 hours ago, said you'd been depressed, that the pregnancy had been hard on you, that he'd tried to get you help, but you refused. He's got half the police force out looking for you." Elise's blood ran cold. "He's not looking for me. He's making sure no one questions it when they find my body. Except they won't find your body, because you're alive. For now." Elise shifted Miles carefully, supporting his head. "Victor doesn't leave loose ends. If he finds out I survived, then we make sure he doesn't find out." Dr. Chen's voice was firm. "You need to disappear. Real disappearance, not the kind where you leave a trail. New identity, new city, new life." "I don't know how to do that. Nolan does." Dr. Chen moved to the door. "Rest. I'll send him in." She left before Elise could protest. Nolan appeared a few minutes later, still wearing the same wet clothes, his dark hair pushed back from his face. He stopped in the doorway, his gray eyes finding Miles first, then Elise. "Congratulations," he said quietly. "Thank you." Elise adjusted the blanket around Miles. "Dr. Chen says you paid for this. For everything. It's handled. I'll pay you back somehow. I don't know how, but I don't want your money." He crossed to the chair Dr. Chen had vacated, sat down carefully. Up close, Elise could see he was younger than she'd thought, early 30s maybe, tired, the kind of tired that came from carrying weight that wasn't yours. "I want to know what you need." "I need—" Elise's voice caught. "I need to not exist. Victor can't know I'm alive. Can't know about Miles. If he finds out—" "He won't." Nolan's voice was certain. "I can get you documents. New identity, social security number, birth certificate for your son. It'll take a few days, but it'll be clean, unbreakable." "Why are you helping me?" "Does it matter?" "Yes." Elise met his eyes. "Everyone wants something. What do you want?" Nolan was quiet for a long moment. Outside, thunder rumbled, distant now, the storm moving inland. Finally, he said, 3 years ago, I watched someone I cared about die because I wasn't fast enough, wasn't smart enough, wasn't there when it mattered. His jaw tightened. I can't fix that, but I can make sure it doesn't happen to someone else. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just let me help you. Elise looked down at Miles, at his tiny, perfect face, his miniature fingers. If I disappear, Victor wins. He gets to keep everything. The house, the money, the business. He gets to rewrite history, make me into the crazy wife who couldn't handle reality. He gets to move that woman into my home, and Elise. Nolan leaned forward. You're alive. Your son is alive. That's not Victor winning. That's you winning. Everything else is just noise. No. The word came out harder than she intended. No, it's not. Victor threw me into a hurricane while his mistress watched. He locked the doors and left me to die. And you want me to just, what, run away? Change my name and pretend it never happened? I want you to survive. I want justice. Justice gets you killed. Nolan's voice sharpened. You go after Victor Reigns, he'll bury you. And this time, there won't be anyone driving by at the right moment. There won't be a second chance. Then I'll be smart about it. Elise's hand tightened on Miles. I know things about his business, his associates, his properties. I was his wife for 5 years. I know where the bodies are buried, literally. And what are you going to do with that information? Go to the police? Nolan shook his head. Half of them are on his payroll. The other half are too scared to touch him. Then I'll find someone who isn't scared. That someone will end up dead. Fine, Elise's voice was ice. Then I'll do it myself. Nolan stared at her. In the silence, Miles stirred, making soft sleep sounds. Finally, Nolan said, You're serious. Completely. You just gave birth 3 hours ago. I'm aware. You have a newborn who needs you, which is exactly why I can't let Victor get away with this. Elise adjusted Miles, making sure he was secure. What happens when Miles gets older? When he starts asking questions about his father? What do I tell him? That Daddy tried to kill us, but Mommy ran away and let him win? You tell him you survived, that you built a new life. That's not weakness, Elise. That's strength. No, she met Nolan's eyes. Strength is making sure Victor pays for what he did. Making sure Marla pays. Making sure everyone who stood by and let it happen understands there are consequences. Nolan stood, paced to the window. You want revenge. I want justice. They're not the same thing. Sometimes they are. He turned back, studying her face. If I help you, and that's a big if, it's not going to be quick. It's not going to be dramatic. You don't get to march into his office with a gun and a speech. I know. It'll take years, maybe decades. And at the end of it, there's no guarantee it'll work. I don't need a guarantee. Elise's voice was steady, certain. I just need a chance. Nolan was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, he smiled. You know what? You remind me of someone. Who? Me. After I lost someone I loved. He moved back to the chair. Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, we get you healthy. You and Miles both. You need at least a week of recovery, and he needs to be monitored to make sure there are no complications from the early birth. I can't stay here that long. If Victor thinks you're dead, Dr. Chen's clinic isn't registered to her real name, and it's not connected to any database he can access. You're safe here. For now. Elise nodded slowly. Second, Nolan continued, we build your new identity. Not just documents, a whole background. Work history, references, rental history. It needs to be airtight because Victor will be looking. Maybe not actively, but he'll have feelers out. If you surface anywhere obvious, he'll find you. What kind of identity? What do you want to be? Elise looked down at Miles. What did she want to be? Not Victor's wife, not the woman who'd once thought love meant expensive dinners and penthouse views, someone new, someone stronger. I want to work, she said quietly. I want to earn my own money. Build my own life. Doing what? I don't know. I have a degree in business administration, but I never used it. Victor didn't want me to work. Said it wasn't necessary. Nolan's expression darkened. Of course he did. Okay, business administration. That's good. We can work with that. And I want, Elise hesitated. I want to understand how Victor's business works. The real business, not the legitimate front. If I'm going to take him down, I need to know how he operates. That's dangerous knowledge. I'm already in danger. I'd rather be dangerous back. Nolan studied her for a moment, then nodded. Third step. We wait. Let Victor get comfortable. Let him think you're really gone. Let him marry his mistress or promote her to queen or whatever the hell he's planning. And while he's getting comfortable, you're learning, training, building resources. How long? As long as it takes. Nolan's voice was firm. Revenge is a dish best served cold, Elise. If you rush this, if you get impatient, Victor will destroy you. But if you're willing to wait, if you're willing to be smart and strategic, then maybe you have a chance. Miles woke up then, his face scrunching in pre-cry distress. Elise immediately adjusted him, murmuring soft reassurances. He quieted, his tiny mouth seeking, and she realized he was hungry. She looked at Nolan, suddenly awkward. I'll give you privacy. He stood. Think about what I said. You don't have to decide tonight, but Elise... He paused at the door. Whatever you decide, I'll help you. New life or revenge or both. You saved yourself tonight. You got yourself to those gates. Most people would have given up long before that. You didn't. That tells me everything I need to know. He left. Elise looked down at Miles, who was rooting against her chest with increasing frustration. Okay, baby, she whispered. Let's figure this out together. The next week passed in a blur of feeding schedules and diaper changes and learning how to be a mother while her body healed from trauma. Dr. Chen checked on them twice a day, monitoring Miles's weight and making sure Elise's recovery was progressing normally. Nolan came by every evening, bringing food and supplies and slowly, carefully laying out his plan. He ran a security consulting firm, completely legitimate, he assured her, with corporate clients and government contracts and everything above board. But he also had connections, people who owed him favors, people who could make things happen without asking questions. I can get you a job, he told her on the fourth day. Starting position, nothing glamorous. Administrative work for one of my clients. It'll give you income, work history, a reason to be in the city. What city? Your choice, but I'd recommend staying local. Disappearing to another state looks suspicious. Staying here, hiding in plain sight, that's the last thing Victor would expect. Elise considered that. He'll have people everywhere, eyes everywhere. He will. But he'll be looking for Elise Raines, scared, pregnant, helpless. He won't be looking for... Nolan pulled out a folder. Maya Winters, single mother, moved here from Ohio 6 months ago. Rented a small apartment downtown. Works as an administrative assistant for Pierce Security Solutions. Keeps to herself. Unremarkable. Invisible. Elise took the folder. Inside were documents that looked decades old. Birth certificate, social security card, high school diploma, even a few credit card statements. How did you... Don't ask. She flipped through the pages. Maya Winters had a whole life here. References from previous employers, a rental history, even a couple of parking tickets. This is incredible, Elise whispered. It's a foundation. The rest is up to you. Nolan pulled out another folder. This is everything I could compile on Victor's business in the last week. Property holdings, shell companies, known associates. It's not complete. The man's got more layers than an onion, but it's a start. Elise opened the second folder and felt her breath catch. Pages and pages of information. Addresses, names, financial records. Things she'd overheard or half seen during her marriage, but never quite understood. There, she said, pointing to a company name. Meridian Holdings. That's the one Victor uses for the offshore accounts. Nolan leaned in. You're sure? Positive. I saw the paperwork once, years ago. He got drunk at a party and left his briefcase open. I didn't understand what I was looking at then, but I remember the name. That's good. Nolan made a note. What else do you remember? They spent the next 2 hours going through the documents, Elise adding details and context to Nolan's research. She knew more than she'd realized. Names of Victor's lawyers, locations of properties he owned under false names, the schedule he kept for his real business, the one that had nothing to do with the luxury car dealerships he claimed as his primary income. He meets with his top guys every third Thursday, she said, at a restaurant called Costello's. They take the private room and back, and Victor sweeps it for bugs himself before anyone talks business. How do you know that? I used to go with him, early in the marriage when he wanted me decorative. Elise's voice was bitter. He thought I wasn't listening, thought I was too stupid to understand what I was hearing, but I heard everything. Nolan sat back, studying her. You're going to be good at this. At what? Taking him apart. He closed the folder. Most people, they want revenge. They think it means violence, guns and blood and dramatic confrontations. But the best revenge is legal, strategic. You don't shoot someone like Victor Reigns. You dismantle him. You take away everything that makes him powerful, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but a man standing in the ruins of his own empire. And then? Then you walk away. Because you've already won. Elise looked down at Miles, sleeping peacefully in his bassinet beside her bed. What if walking away isn't enough? Then you haven't really won. Nolan's voice was quiet. Elise, I've seen what revenge does to people. It eats them alive, turns them into the thing they're fighting against. You don't want that. Not for yourself, and definitely not for your son. So what do I want? Justice. The legal kind. The kind where Victor ends up in prison or bankrupt or both. Where Marla loses everything she thought she'd gained. Where everyone who helped them, who turned a blind eye, faces consequences. He leaned forward. That's not revenge. That's accountability. And it's a hell of a lot more satisfying than putting a bullet in someone. Elise considered that. Outside, she could hear the city waking up. Traffic, voices, the normal sounds of life continuing. Somewhere out there, Victor was living his life. Probably with Marla, in her house, in her bed, laughing about the stupid wife who died in a storm. The thought should have made her angry. Instead, she felt something colder, clearer. Okay, she said. Teach me. Over the next 3 days, Nolan brought in specialists, a woman named Teresa who taught Elise how to move differently, talk differently, disappear into a new identity. A man called Jin who explained the basics of digital security, how to use encrypted communication, how to avoid leaving trails, how to research someone without them knowing they were being researched. And Nolan himself taught her the most important lesson, patience. Victor's not going anywhere, he said. His business is built on relationships that took decades to establish. You can't topple that overnight. But you can chip away at it, one contract at a time, one ally at a time, until the whole thing collapses. How long will that take? Years. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. Elise looked at Miles. He was a week old now, already growing, already changing. In 5 years, he'd be in kindergarten. In 10, he'd be in middle school. I can wait, she said quietly. For him, I can wait as long as it takes. On the 8th day, Dr. Chen cleared them both for discharge. Miles was healthy, hitting all his milestones. Elise's body had healed remarkably well, considering the trauma it had endured. You're lucky, Dr. Chen said. Lucky to be alive. Lucky to have a healthy son. Lucky that Nolan found you. I know. Elise held Miles close. Thank you for everything. Stay smart. Stay hidden. And if you ever need medical care again, for any reason, you come back here. Understand? Elise nodded. Nolan drove them to the apartment he'd rented under Maya Winter's name. It was small, a one-bedroom on the 4th floor of a building that had seen better days, but it was clean and furnished and, most importantly, untraceable to Victor Reigns. Welcome home, Nolan said, carrying Miles's car seat inside. Home. The word felt strange. This wasn't home. Home had been, the mansion on the cliff. But that wasn't hers anymore. Maybe it had never really been hers. This was hers. This small shabby apartment with its worn carpet and humming refrigerator. This was where she'd build her new life, where she'd raise her son, where she'd plan Victor's destruction. There's a crib in the bedroom, Nolan said, and I stocked the kitchen with basics. Formula, diapers, all that stuff Dr. Chen said you'd need. You didn't have to? Yes, I did. He set the car seat down carefully. You start work in 2 weeks. That gives you time to settle in, get used to the routine. I'll have Teresa check in every few days, make sure you're adjusting to the identity. What will I be doing? At your company? Filing, data entry, answering phones, boring stuff. He smiled slightly. But you'll be in the office. You'll hear things, meet people, learn how legitimate security operations work. all of which will be useful when you're ready to move against Victor. And you're just, what, going to let me use your company as cover? I'm going to employ you, pay you a fair wage, teach you everything I know about security, investigation, and strategic planning. Nolan's expression was serious. In return, you keep your head down, you don't take unnecessary risks, and you remember that Miles comes first, always. If there's ever a choice between revenge and your son's safety, you choose your son. Deal? Elise looked at Miles, sleeping peacefully in his car seat. Deal. Good. Nolan moved to the door. I'll be in touch. You have my number if you need anything. Nolan, Elise caught his arm. Why are you really doing this? And don't tell me it's because of someone you lost. There's more to it. He looked at her for a long moment. Victor Raines is everything wrong with this city. He breaks laws, destroys lives, and walks away clean because he's got money and connections and enough fear to keep everyone in line. I've been trying to bring him down for 3 years. Every lead goes nowhere. Every witness disappears or recants. Every investigation hits a wall. He paused. Then you appear. Victor's wife, the one person who knows where all the bodies are buried, the one person he thinks is dead and can't defend against. You're not just looking for revenge, Elise. You're my best chance at justice. So I'm useful to you. We're useful to each other. He smiled. Seems like a fair arrangement to me. After he left, Elise sat in the apartment's single armchair, holding Miles, looking out the window at a city that suddenly felt full of possibility. Somewhere out there, Victor was living his life. Somewhere out there, Marla was probably already redecorating the mansion, erasing every trace of Elise's existence. Let them. Let them think they'd won. Let them get comfortable, complacent, convinced that the problem named Elise Hart had been solved. Because Maya Winters was just getting started. 3 years passed like water through fingers. Maya Winters became real in ways that Elise Hart had never been. She woke at 6 every morning to Miles's cheerful babbling, made oatmeal in the tiny kitchen while he played with blocks on the floor, dropped him at daycare by 8, and arrived at Pierce Security Solutions by 8:30. She filed reports, answered phones, scheduled appointments, and slowly, so slowly no one noticed, absorbed everything. Nolan's company handled security for some of the city's largest corporations, banks, tech firms, shipping companies, the kind of businesses that moved serious money and needed serious protection. Maya sat at the front desk and smiled pleasantly while executives discussed contracts in the conference room. She brought coffee to meetings and took notes that no one bothered to review. And she listened. Within 6 months, she understood how corporate security actually worked, the vulnerabilities, the protocols, the ways that money moved between legitimate businesses and the less legitimate operations that supported them. Within a year, Nolan had promoted her to junior analyst. Nothing flashy, just enough responsibility to justify her presence in deeper conversations. She compiled threat assessments, researched potential clients, and occasionally sat in on contract negotiations. And every piece of information she gathered, she filtered through one question: how does this connect to Victor? The connections were everywhere once she knew how to look. Victor's legitimate business, Raines Automotive Group, a chain of luxury car dealerships, did extensive work with Harborview Bank. Harborview Bank was a client of Pierce Security. Maya worked the Harborview account, which meant she saw their transaction records, their security protocols, their communication patterns. She saw the irregular transfers, the accounts that didn't quite match the business activity, the timing that suggested someone was moving money through the bank to avoid scrutiny. "Nolan," she said one evening, staying late after everyone else had gone home, "I need you to look at something." He came to her desk, still wearing his tie despite the hour. Nolan never fully relaxed, she'd learned, never quite let his guard down. It was one of many things they had in common. She pulled up the Harborview records on her screen. These accounts. See the pattern? Nolan leaned in, scanning the data. His jaw tightened. Those are shell accounts. I know, routed through Meridian Holdings. Victor's offshore company. Yes. Maya highlighted a series of transactions. He's using Harborview to clean money from his real business. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger federal reporting requirements. But over time it's millions. Nolan straightened. Can you prove it? Not yet. But I can track it. Build a timeline. Show the pattern clearly enough that someone with subpoena power could force Harborview to disclose the beneficial owners. That someone being? The SEC, the FBI, anyone with the authority to dig deeper than we can. Nolan was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he said, "You've gotten good at this." "I had a good teacher." Maya saved the file, encrypted it, stored it in the secure partition Nolan had helped her set up on her computer. "How many clients do we have that overlap with Victor's business?" 4, maybe 5. "Why?" "Because if he's using Harborview, he's probably using the others too. Different methods, different accounts, but the same basic structure. He's not creative enough to develop multiple systems. He finds something that works and replicates it." "You sound like you know him pretty well." Maya's smile was cold. "I was married to him for 5 years. I know exactly how his mind works." She went home that night to find Miles already asleep, the babysitter reading on the couch. Mrs. Chen, no relation to Dr. Sarah Chen, was a widow in her 60s who lived 2 floors down and treated Miles like the grandson she'd never had. She was also one of the few people Maya trusted. "He ate all his dinner," Mrs. Chen reported, gathering her knitting, "and he wanted me to tell you about the dinosaur he made at preschool. Very important, apparently." "I'll ask him about it tomorrow." Maya paid her, always in cash, always the same rate, nothing that would seem unusual, and locked the door behind her. Miles's room was barely big enough for his toddler bed and toy chest, but he'd decorated it himself with crayon drawings taped to every available surface. Dinosaurs, mostly, and houses, and stick figures that he insisted were Mama and me. Never a father figure. Maya had made sure of that. She stood in the doorway, watching him sleep. 3 years old, bright and curious and completely unaware that his father had tried to kill them both. Unaware that his mother spent every free moment planning the destruction of a man he'd never met. Sometimes Maya wondered if she was doing the right thing. If she should just take Nolan's original advice, disappear completely, build a quiet life somewhere far from Victor's reach, let Miles grow up normal and safe. Then she'd remember the feeling of rain on her face as she pounded on locked doors, the sound of Marla's laughter, the certainty that Victor had left her to die, and she'd go back to work. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday. Maya was reviewing security footage from one of their client sites. Routine work, looking for patterns that might indicate internal theft, when she recognized a face in the crowd. Carlo Messina, Victor's accountant, the man who knew where every dollar went, legal and otherwise. Carlo was meeting with someone at Westport Financial, another Pierce Security client. Meeting in a private office, away from cameras, the kind of meeting that didn't appear on any official calendar. Maya pulled the metadata. The meeting had lasted 47 minutes. Carlo had arrived alone and left alone. The other person, Maya ran facial recognition through their database, was Jonathan Reeves, Westport's chief compliance officer. A compliance officer meeting secretly with a known associate of organized crime. That was interesting. Maya dug deeper. Reeves had been with Westport for 8 months. Before that, he'd worked at Harborview Bank. Before that, 3 other financial institutions, none of which he'd stayed at longer than a year. She pulled his employment file. Clean record, excellent references. MBA from a respectable program. Nothing that would raise red flags during standard background screening. But Maya had learned to look beyond the surface. She cross-referenced Reeves's employment dates with known federal investigations into financial crimes. Every single company he'd worked for had been investigated within 2 years of his departure, and every investigation had ultimately failed due to missing records or uncooperative witnesses. Reeves wasn't just an employee. He was a cleaner. Someone Victor planted inside financial institutions to either facilitate his money laundering or destroy evidence when things got too hot. "Nolan." Maya didn't bother with pleasantries when he answered his cell. "I need a meeting. Tonight. Bring Teresa." They met at a diner 6 blocks from the office. Teresa arrived first, sliding into the booth across from Maya with the easy confidence of someone who'd spent 20 years in federal law enforcement before going private. She'd been the one to teach Maya how to build cases, how to connect disparate pieces of information into narratives that would hold up under scrutiny. "This better be good," Teresa said, stealing a French fry from Maya's plate. "I had plans." "It's good." Maya pulled out her tablet, kept the screen angled away from the other diners. "I found one of Victor's cleaners." Teresa's expression sharpened. "Where?" "Westport Financial, Chief Compliance Officer. He's been there 8 months, which means he's probably about ready to either execute whatever Victor planted him for or disappear before the heat comes down." Nolan arrived, ordered coffee, and listened while Maya laid out everything she'd found. The pattern of employment, the failed investigations, the secret meeting with Carlo Messina. If we can flip Reeves, Maya said quietly, we can potentially unravel Victor's entire financial network. He's been inside multiple institutions. He knows how the money moves, where it goes. Who's involved? Big if, Teresa said. Guys like Reeves don't flip easy. They're paid well to keep their mouths shut, and they know what happens to people who talk. So we give him a better option. Maya's voice was calm. Witness protection, immunity, a chance to disappear somewhere Victor can't reach him. You can't offer that, Nolan pointed out. You're not law enforcement. No, but you know people who are. Nolan and Teresa exchanged a look. Finally, Teresa said, I know someone. FBI Financial Crimes Division. She's clean, not on Victor's payroll, not looking the other way. She's been trying to build a case against him for 2 years with nothing to show for it. Would she be interested in Reeves? Interested? She'd probably kiss you. Teresa grinned. But here's the thing. We can't just hand her a name and expect her to do all the work. We need to give her enough evidence to justify an approach. Something concrete that shows Reeves is dirty and worth the resources to flip. I can get that, Maya said immediately. How? Westport is our client. I have access to their systems. If Reeves is moving money for Victor, there'll be traces. Encrypted files, hidden accounts, transaction records that don't match official ledgers. I just need time to find them. Nolan shook his head. That's illegal. You'd be hacking a client's private systems. If Westport finds out, they won't. I'm careful. Maya. Elise. The name came out sharp, hard. She almost never used it anymore, but right now she needed Nolan to understand. Victor threw me into a hurricane while I was pregnant. He locked the doors and walked away. If I have to break a few laws to make sure he pays for that, I'll break them. Are you going to help me or not? The diner was quiet except for the hiss of the grill and the low murmur of other conversations. Nolan's coffee sat untouched, cooling in its cup. I'll help, he said finally. But we do this smart. No unnecessary risks. And the second it looks like you might get caught, you pull back. Understood? Understood. Teresa leaned back in the booth. You know, when Nolan first told me about you, I thought you were going to be some damsel in distress looking for a white knight. I was wrong. Good. Maya closed her tablet. Because I'm not looking to be saved. I'm looking to burn everything down. It took 3 weeks to crack Westport's internal systems. Maya worked late every night, using Pierce Security's legitimate access to client networks as cover, while she quietly bypassed Westport's additional security protocols. She found Reeves's files buried under 3 layers of encryption, financial records that showed exactly what Teresa had suspected. Reeves was facilitating transfers through Westport for at least 6 different criminal enterprises, not just Victor's, millions of dollars moving through carefully structured transactions designed to avoid detection. He was good at it. Would have been completely invisible if Maya hadn't known exactly what to look for. She compiled everything into a clean, organized file. Transaction records, account numbers, dates and amounts. A complete map of Reeves's activities over the last 8 months. Then she encrypted it, copied it to an untraceable drive, and handed it to Teresa. Your FBI friend is going to love you, Maya said. Teresa looked at the drive like it might explode. This is enough? It's enough to justify investigating Reeves. What she does with that investigation is up to her. And if Reeves doesn't flip, then at least we've burned one of Victor's cleaners. He'll have to replace Reeves, which means training someone new, which means mistakes. Either way, we win. Teresa pocketed the drive. You're kind of scary, you know that? Thank you. The FBI moved faster than Maya expected. Within a week, agents had picked up Reeves as he left work. Within 2 days, he'd negotiated a deal, full cooperation in exchange for witness protection and immunity from prosecution. Within a month, he'd given federal investigators enough information to freeze accounts at 7 different financial institutions and issue subpoenas for records connected to Victor's various shell companies. It wasn't everything. Victor had too many layers, too many redundancies. But it was something. A crack in the armor. The first real damage Maya had managed to inflict. And Victor noticed. She was at her desk when the news broke. The local channel ran a story about federal raids on several businesses connected to what they carefully called alleged organized crime activity. They didn't name Victor, couldn't without proof, but they didn't have to. Everyone who knew anything about the city's underworld knew exactly who they meant. Maya watched the footage of federal agents carrying boxes out of a building she recognized as one of Victor's front operations. Watched them load everything into unmarked vans. Watched Carlo Messina being escorted out in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, his face carefully blank. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no triumph, no anger, just cold calculation. One operation down, dozens more to go. Maya. She looked up to find Nolan standing beside her desk. His expression was tense. What's wrong? Conference room. Now. She followed him, her heart rate picking up. Something had happened. Something bad enough that Nolan couldn't discuss it in the open office. Teresa was already in the conference room, along with two people Maya didn't recognize. A man and a woman, both wearing the kind of suits that screamed federal agent. Maya Winters, the woman said, I'm Special Agent Rebecca Cole, FBI Financial Crimes Division. This is my partner, Agent Marcus Wong. We need to ask you some questions. Maya's stomach dropped. They knew. Somehow, they'd traced the Westport hack back to her. She was about to be arrested for... About Victor Rains, Agent Cole continued. We understand you may have information relevant to our investigation. The relief was so intense, Maya almost laughed. I don't understand. I'm just an administrative assistant at a security firm. What would I know about Victor Rains? Agent Cole smiled slightly. Cut the crap, Ms. Winters. Or should I call you Mrs. Rains? The room went very still. Maya's mind raced. How did they know? She'd been so careful. The identity was perfect. There was no way to connect Maya Winters to Elise Hart unless... Jonathan Reeves gave us a lot of information, Agent Cole said, including an interesting story about how he first got recruited by Victor. Apparently 3.5 years ago, right after Victor's wife disappeared, Victor went on a hiring spree. Brought in new people at every company he had connections to. Reeves thought it was because Victor needed fresh faces after the publicity around his wife's disappearance. But we think it was because Victor was tying up loose ends, making sure no one who knew the old Mrs. Rains could make connections to wherever she'd gone. I still don't see what this has to do with me. Because Reeves remembers something else. He remembers Carlo Messina getting drunk at a party about 2 years ago and ranting about how Victor's dead wife had taken some information with her. Something about offshore accounts. Carlo said Victor had changed everything, moved everything, built new structures from scratch because he couldn't risk that the information was still out there somewhere. Agent Cole leaned forward. But here's the thing. Dead women don't take information anywhere. Dead women can't hurt you. Unless they're not actually dead. Maya kept her expression neutral. That's an interesting theory. It's more than a theory. Agent Wong spoke for the first time. We've been investigating Victor Rains for 3 years. Every lead goes nowhere. Every witness disappears. Every trail goes cold. But 6 months ago, things started changing. Small things at first. A cleaner gets identified. Accounts get frozen. Operations get disrupted. Someone started poking holes in Victor's empire, and that someone knew exactly where to poke. Good detective work? Maya suggested. Or inside knowledge. Agent Cole pulled out a folder. Maya Winters didn't exist 4 years ago. Perfect paper trail going back 6 months before that, but nothing earlier. No digital footprint, no social media, no school photos, nothing. Maya Winters was created by someone very good at creating identities. Lots of people start over. Maybe I had an abusive ex. Maybe I was in witness protection. There are plenty of legitimate reasons for a new identity. Absolutely. And normally we wouldn't care. Agent Cole opened the folder. Inside was a photo, surveillance footage from the night of the hurricane. Grainy, dark, but unmistakable. A woman being carried from an SUV into Dr. Chen's clinic. Maya's blood ran cold. We've been watching Dr. Chen's clinic for unrelated reasons, Agent Wong said. The woman in this photo matches Elise Rains' description. Height, build, hair color. And the date stamp matches the night Elise supposedly disappeared. Maya looked at Nolan. His face was carefully blank, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. He'd known this might happen, had probably tried to warn her in his subtle way, but she'd been too focused on Victor to consider that other people might be looking for Elise Hart. Even if that's me in the photo, Maya said carefully, that doesn't prove anything. Maybe I was hurt in the storm. Maybe someone brought me to a clinic. That doesn't make me Elise Rains. No, Agent Cole agreed. But combined with everything else, Your knowledge of Victor's business, your position at a company that serves his associates, the timing of when things started going wrong for him, it paints a pretty clear picture. So what do you want? We want Victor Rains in prison. Agent Cole's voice was flat, hard. We want his entire organization dismantled, and we think you can help us do that. Why would I help you? Because right now, you're conducting what amounts to a one-woman revenge campaign. It's impressive, don't get me wrong. You've done more damage in 3 years than we've managed in a decade. But you're going to get caught eventually. Victor's paranoid, and he's getting more paranoid every time something goes wrong. How long before he connects the dots? Before he realizes his dead wife is still alive and coming for him? Maya said nothing. We can protect you, Agent Cole continued. Real protection, federal resources. And in exchange, you give us everything you have on Victor. Every document, every connection, every piece of evidence you've compiled. We build an airtight case and we put him away forever. And if I say no, then you keep playing your dangerous game, and when Victor finds you, and he will find you, we'll read about it in the papers. The threat hung in the air between them. Teresa cleared her throat. Can we have the room? I need to consult with my client. The agents exchanged glances. You have 30 minutes, Agent Cole said. After that, we need an answer. They left. The moment the door closed, Maya turned to Nolan. Did you set this up? No. His voice was firm. I had no idea they were coming. Teresa? I gave them the Reeves information, Teresa admitted. I didn't give them your name. They must have made the connections themselves. Maya paced to the window. Outside, the city sprawled in every direction, millions of people living lives that had nothing to do with Victor Rains or Elise Hart or the 3-year campaign of quiet destruction. If I do this, she said slowly, if I give them everything, I lose control. The case becomes theirs. The timeline becomes theirs. And if they screw it up, if Victor walks, then at least you tried through legal channels, Nolan finished. Maya, they're right. You're good at this, but you're one person. Victor has resources you can't match. Eventually he'll figure out what's happening. And when he does, I know. Maya pressed her forehead against the cool glass. I know what he'll do. She thought about Miles, about the life she'd built, about how much she'd already risked and how much more she stood to lose. She thought about Victor's face as he'd locked those terrace doors, about Marla's satisfied smile, and she thought about justice. Real justice. The kind that came with prison sentences and asset forfeiture and public exposure. Okay, she said quietly. I'll do it. Teresa let out a breath. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Maya turned from the window. But I have conditions. What conditions? First, Miles's identity stays protected. No matter what happens, no one connects him to Victor. He gets to grow up normal. Agreed, Nolan said immediately. Second, I want to stay involved. I'm not just handing over files and walking away. I want to work the case, help build it, make sure it's done right. The FBI might not go for that. Then they don't get my cooperation. Maya's voice was steel. I've spent 3 years on this. I know Victor's operation better than anyone. They'd be stupid not to use me. Teresa nodded slowly. I'll make the argument. What else? Third, Maya hesitated. When this is over, when Victor's in custody and the case is closed, I want my old name back, legally. I want to be Elise Hart again. I want Miles to know who his mother really is. That's dangerous, Nolan warned. Victor has people, even in prison. I don't care. I'm not hiding forever. I'm not letting him take my name along with everything else. The silence stretched. Finally, Nolan said, Okay, we'll make it happen. Maya walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. Thank you, both of you, for everything you've done, for believing this was possible. You did the hard part, Teresa said quietly. We just provided resources. Maya opened the door. Agents Cole and Wong were waiting in the hallway, exactly where she'd known they'd be. I'm in, Maya said, but we do this my way. And if you screw it up, if you let Victor walk because of some procedural mistake or bureaucratic bullshit, I will finish what I started. Understand? Agent Cole smiled. Perfectly. They spent the next 6 hours in that conference room, Maya walking the agents through everything she'd compiled, every document, every connection, every vulnerable point in Victor's organization. Agent Cole took notes in a leather-bound notebook, while Agent Wong recorded everything on a digital device that he assured her was encrypted beyond Victor's ability to crack. By the time they finished, it was past midnight. Maya's throat was raw from talking, and she had a headache building behind her eyes. But for the first time in 3 years, she felt something like hope. "This is good," Agent Cole said, reviewing her notes. "This is very good. With what Reeves gave us and what you're providing, we can start building warrants, subpoenas, get into records Victor thought were sealed." "How long? To build a case this complex? At least a year, maybe 2. We need to be thorough. Every I dotted, every T crossed. Victor has the best lawyers money can buy. We get one shot at this." Maya nodded. She'd waited 3 years already. She could wait 2 more. "In the meantime," Agent Wong said, "you need to be careful. Don't change your routine. Don't do anything that might signal to Victor that something's wrong. Just live my life," Maya finished. "I know. I've been doing that for 3 years." She went home to find Mrs. Chen asleep on the couch and Miles curled in his bed, clutching the stuffed dinosaur he'd named Roar. Maya stood in his doorway, watching him sleep, feeling the weight of what she'd just set in motion. No going back now. She'd handed her revenge over to people who promised justice, who swore they'd see it through. And all she could do was trust them, trust and wait, and hope that this time, finally, Victor Raines would face the consequences he'd spent a lifetime avoiding. The investigation moved like winter ice forming on a lake, slowly, invisibly, until suddenly the surface was solid enough to walk on. Maya watched it unfold from her position at Pierce Security, feeding information to Agent Cole while maintaining the careful fiction of Maya Winters' single mother, unremarkable employee. She attended parent-teacher conferences for Miles, who was now 4 and obsessed with space. She grocery shopped and paid bills and lived a life so aggressively normal that anyone watching would die of boredom. But beneath that surface, things were happening. Federal agents traced financial records through 6 countries. Grand juries issued subpoenas. Witnesses who'd been too scared to talk 3 years ago suddenly found their courage when presented with immunity deals and witness protection. Victor's empire, which had seemed impenetrable, began showing cracks, and Victor began to panic. Maya first noticed it in the small things. Carlo Messina, who'd made bail and disappeared, turned up dead in a car accident. That accident, investigators privately admitted, looked staged. 2 of Victor's lawyers suddenly retired and moved to countries without extradition treaties. A warehouse that held records connected to the investigation burned to the ground in what fire marshals called suspicious circumstances. "He's cleaning house," Agent Cole said during one of their weekly meetings. They met in different locations each time, coffee shops, park benches, once in the back of a movie theater during a matinee showing. "Getting rid of anyone who might testify against him." "Will that work?" Maya kept her voice low, aware of the other moviegoers, even though the nearest ones were 3 rows away. "It might have 5 years ago. But we've got Reeves's testimony locked down, and he gave us enough to corroborate through financial records. Even if Victor eliminates every other witness, we can still build a case." "But it'll be weaker." "Yes." Agent Cole's jaw tightened. "Which is why we need to move faster. My superiors want to wait, build an absolutely perfect case. But every day we wait is another day Victor has to destroy evidence or eliminate witnesses. So what do? We give him something else to worry about." Agent Cole's plan was elegant in its simplicity. They'd been investigating Victor's financial crimes, money laundering, tax evasion, fraud. White-collar charges that could put him away for decades but wouldn't get the same public attention as violence. What they needed was something that would dominate headlines, put Victor in the spotlight, make it impossible for him to operate in the shadows. They needed to connect him directly to a violent crime. The problem, Agent Wong explained during a meeting at Nolan's office, is that Victor's careful. He doesn't pull triggers himself, doesn't give orders that can be recorded. Everything goes through intermediaries, and those intermediaries are either dead or too scared to talk. What about Marla? The question came out before Maya could stop it. She'd been avoiding thinking about Marla Voss, about the woman who'd stood beside Victor and watched him throw his pregnant wife into a hurricane. But Marla was a weakness, had always been a weakness. What about her? Agent Cole looked interested. She was there that night. She manufactured the evidence that made Victor think I was a traitor. She watched him throw me outside and lock the doors. Maya's hands clenched in her lap. She's complicit in attempted murder. Can you prove she manufactured the evidence? The audio recording was fake. I told you that. Yes, but our forensics team analyzed it. It's good work. Really good. There are no obvious signs of manipulation. To prove it's fake, we'd need the original source files, and Marla's not going to hand those over voluntarily. Then we make her. Maya leaned forward. Marla's not like Victor. She's not careful. She's arrogant. She thinks she won. That makes her vulnerable. Nolan spoke up from where he'd been listening silently. What are you thinking? Marla's living in my house, using my things, playing the role of Victor's devoted partner. But she's not his wife. He never divorced me because he thinks I'm dead, which means legally, everything that was mine still is mine. Where are you going with this? Agent Cole asked. I want my house back. Maya's voice was steel. I want to file a petition with the courts declaring that I'm alive, that my marriage to Victor is still valid, and that Marla Voss is illegally occupying my property. It'll be public record. It'll be in every newspaper, and it'll force Victor to respond. The room went silent. Finally, Agent Wong said, That's insane. You'd be painting a target on your back. The target's already there. Victor just doesn't know it yet. Maya's voice was calm. This way. We control the narrative. We choose when and how to reveal that I'm alive, and we watch how Victor reacts. People make mistakes when they're panicking. They also make bodies disappear, Nolan said quietly. Maya, if you do this, if you come forward publicly, Victor will come for you, not through intermediaries, not through careful planning. He'll come directly, and he'll come hard. Good. Maya met his eyes. Let him come. The FBI will be watching, you'll be watching. And this time, when he tries to kill me, we'll have evidence that sticks. Agent Cole studied her face. You want to be bait. I want to end this. And if that means putting myself in Victor's crosshairs, then that's what it takes. What about Miles? Teresa asked. If Victor knows you're alive, he'll know about Miles. He'll use him to get to you. Which is why Miles won't be anywhere Victor can reach him. Maya had thought this through during the sleepless nights after first considering the plan. We move him before I file anything, someplace safe, someplace Victor doesn't know about. Witness protection? If necessary, or maybe just... Maya looked at Nolan. With someone I trust to keep him safe no matter what happens. Nolan's expression shifted. You want me to take him. Just temporarily. Until this is over. Until Victor's in custody and can't hurt him. Maya, I don't know how to take care of a 4-year-old. You saved us once. I'm asking you to save him again. Maya's voice cracked slightly. Please, Nolan. You're the only person I trust completely. The silence stretched. Finally, Nolan nodded. Okay, but you better survive this, because if I have to explain to that kid why his mother isn't coming back, I will personally hunt down Victor Rains and finish what you started. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. Agent Cole cleared her throat. Assuming we go forward with this plan, and I'm not saying we should, we'd need to prepare. You'd need security, a safe house, a full protective detail. And evidence collection, Agent Wong added. If Victor comes after you, we need to catch it on video, audio, something that proves beyond doubt that he's attempting murder. Wire her, Teresa suggested. Full coverage, audio and video, and put surveillance on every approach to wherever she's staying. That could work? Agent Cole made notes. We'd need a location Victor can find but can't easily access. Somewhere we can control the environment. An apartment, Maya said. Downtown. Something public enough that Victor can't just disappear me, but isolated enough that we can monitor who's coming and going. That's risky. Everything about this is risky. Maya straightened. But it's also our best shot. Victor's been untouchable because he's careful. We make him careless. We make him angry enough to act directly, and then we bury him with the evidence. The plan came together over the next 2 weeks. Agent Cole secured approval from her superiors, reluctantly, with about a dozen conditions and contingencies. Nolan found an apartment in a building with good security and sight lines. Teresa worked with the FBI's technical team to design a surveillance system that would capture everything without being obvious. And Maya prepared to say goodbye to her son. She told Miles they were going on an adventure, that he was going to stay with Uncle Nolan for a little while, and Mama had to do something very important, but she'd be back soon. Miles, who'd never known his mother to lie to him, accepted this with the easy trust of a 4-year-old who thought adults had everything figured out. "Will you bring me a present?" he asked, hugging his stuffed dinosaur. "The best present." Maya knelt down to his eye level, memorizing his face. "I love you, Miles, more than anything in the whole world. Don't ever forget that." "I love you too, Mama." He kissed her cheek. "Don't be sad. Uncle Nolan has a dog." Maya had to turn away so he wouldn't see her cry. Nolan packed Miles's things while Maya stood by the window, watching the street below. Normal people doing normal things, walking dogs, carrying groceries, living lives uncomplicated by attempted murder and federal investigations. "He'll be safe," Nolan said quietly, coming to stand beside her. "I promise you that." "I know." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. What if something goes wrong? What if Victor... Then we adapt. We protect Miles first, and we figure out the rest. Nolan paused. "You don't have to do this, Maya. We can find another way." "No, we can't. This is the only way that ends with Victor in prison and us free." She turned to face him. "I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If this goes sideways, if Victor somehow gets to me before you can stop him, you make sure Miles knows I loved him, that I didn't abandon him, that everything I did was to make sure he could grow up safe." "Maya, promise me, Nolan." He looked at her for a long moment. "I promise, but it's not going to come to that. You don't know that." "No, but I believe it." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "And speaking of things that might go sideways, I need to tell you something." Maya took the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. Recent. Showing Nolan and a woman Maya didn't recognize having coffee at an outdoor cafe. They were sitting close, and the woman was laughing at something Nolan had said. "Who is she?" "Her name is Rebecca." Nolan's voice was careful. "We met 6 months ago. She doesn't know anything about my work with you. Thinks I'm just a boring security consultant. But it's getting serious, and I needed you to know before you potentially become a single father to my 4-year-old while I'm in witness protection or dead." Maya managed to smile. "I'm happy for you, Nolan. Really. You deserve someone who isn't constantly plotting revenge. You deserve peace." Nolan took the photo back. "When this is over, when Victor's locked up, what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I haven't let myself think that far ahead." "Maybe you should." His voice was gentle. "Because revenge isn't a life, Maya. It's just an ending, and you deserve more than that." She thought about that as they drove Miles to Nolan's house, a modest place in the suburbs with a yard and a dog and everything a kid could want. Miles was thrilled, immediately running off to play with the golden retriever named Scout. He barely noticed when Maya said goodbye, which was good, she told herself. Better that he was happy than scared, but it still hurt like a knife to the chest to drive away and leave him there. The apartment the FBI had secured was on the 8th floor of a converted industrial building. Exposed brick, high ceilings, large windows that overlooked the street. Beautiful in a stark sort of way. And wired so thoroughly with surveillance equipment that Agent Wong joked they could count her heartbeats from the van parked 2 blocks away. Maya moved in with a single suitcase. She'd kept Maya Winter's wardrobe simple, practical clothes, nothing flashy, nothing that would draw attention. But for this final act, she needed to be Elise again, needed to look like the woman Victor had married, the woman he'd tried to erase. She went shopping at stores she'd once frequented, bought designer dresses and expensive shoes, had her hair done at the salon she'd used before disappearing. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Not because she looked different, but because the woman staring back had a hardness in her eyes that Elise Hart had never possessed. This was who she'd become, someone who could look at danger and walk toward it anyway. The petition was filed on a Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, it was headline news. "Rain's dead wife returns from grave," the tabloid screamed. More respectable outlets went with "missing woman resurfaces after 4 years." But the message was the same. Elise Hart wasn't dead. She was alive, she was back, and she was claiming her property. Maya watched the coverage from her apartment, surrounded by FBI agents in the next room monitoring feeds. Her phone, a new one, untraceable, rang constantly with calls from reporters she ignored. Agent Cole had advised her to maintain silence. Let the lawyers handle everything. Wait for Victor to make the first move. The first move came at 11 p.m. Maya was in bed, trying to sleep despite knowing she was being recorded from 6 different angles when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Hello? Elise! Victor's voice, so smooth, controlled, the same voice that had once whispered loving things in her ear. I have to admit, this is quite a surprise. Maya sat up, her heart hammering. In the next room, she knew agents were scrambling to trace the call. Hello, Victor. Where have you been? Around? Around? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You've been dead for 4 years, and now you're suddenly back, filing legal paperwork, making claims on property. You'll forgive me for being curious about how that works. I was never dead. You just thought I was. Because you disappeared the night of the hurricane, vanished without a trace. What was I supposed to think? You locked me outside in a Category 3 hurricane, Victor. You left me to die. What I did after that was survive. Silence. Long enough that Maya thought he'd hung up. That's an interesting story, Victor said finally. Too bad you can't prove any of it. Can I? Elise, sweetheart, you walked away from our marriage. You abandoned me. For all I know, you staged the whole thing, faked your death, ran off with some other man. And now you're back because you need money. It's sad, really. Is that the story you're going with? It's the truth. My truth, anyway. His voice hardened. Drop the petition. Walk away. I'll even pay you, call it alimony for the years you missed. But this crusade you're on? It ends now. Or what? Or I stop being generous and start being honest about what kind of person you really are, about your mental health issues, your delusions, the way you manipulated and lied. Victor's voice was silk over steel. I have doctors who'll testify you were unstable. I have friends who'll swear you talked about running away. I will destroy what's left of your credibility, Elise, and when I'm done, no one will believe a word you say. Maya felt ice in her veins. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a way out. Victor paused. Where's the baby, by the way? You were pregnant when you disappeared. What happened to my child? Every muscle in Maya's body locked up. There is no baby. Don't lie to me. You were 8 months pregnant. Either you lost the pregnancy, which would be tragic, or you gave birth somewhere, which means I have a 4-year-old son or daughter I've never met. His voice dropped. Where is my child, Elise? There is no child. Maya forced the words out. I lost the pregnancy. In the storm. There's nothing left. I don't believe you. I don't care what you believe. We'll see. Victor's voice was cold now, deadly. You made a mistake coming back, Elise. You should have stayed dead. The line went dead. Maya sat in the darkness, shaking. In the next room, Agent Cole appeared in the doorway. We got it, she said. Every word. That's enough for a threat charge at minimum. He knows about Miles, Maya's voice was hollow. He'll look for him. He won't find him. Nolan's got him in a secure location, and we've got surveillance on anyone Victor might send. Agent Cole crossed the room, sat on the edge of the bed. Maya, we knew this would be hard, knew Victor would push back, but you did exactly what we needed. You got him talking, got him threatening you on a recorded line. That's evidence we can use. It's not enough. Not yet, but it's a start. The threats escalated over the next week. Phone calls at all hours, always from different numbers. Victor alternated between friendly offers, drop the petition, and he'd make sure she was taken care of, and thinly veiled warnings about what happened to people who crossed him. Maya recorded everything, stayed calm, and waited for him to make a mistake. The mistake came on a Thursday. Maya was coming back from a coffee shop 3 blocks from her apartment. A trip Agent Cole had reluctantly approved because Maya was going stir-crazy, and the coffee shop had good sightlines for the surveillance team. She'd just turned onto her street when a black sedan pulled up beside her. The back door opened. Marla Voss stepped out. She looked different than Maya remembered. Older, though it had only been 4 years. Harder. She was wearing clothes that had probably come from Elise's closet. A cream silk blouse, tailored slacks. Jewelry that Elise recognized as pieces Victor had given her for their anniversary. Hello, Elise. Marla's smile was all teeth. Surprised to see me? Maya kept walking. Not particularly. We should talk. Marla fell into step beside her. Woman to woman. About how this is all going to play out. I have nothing to say to you. That's a shame because I have a lot to say to you. Marla's voice was pleasant, conversational. Like how you're making a mistake. Victor's not the man you remember. He's changed, harder, angrier, and he really doesn't like being embarrassed. Then he shouldn't have tried to kill his pregnant wife. Is that what you think happened? Marla laughed. Sweetie, you walked out into a storm on your own. Victor tried to stop you, but you were having one of your episodes. Everyone at the house that night will testify to that. There was no one else at the house that night except you and Victor and his security team. Exactly, and we all remember it the same way. Marla stopped walking, forcing Maya to stop too. You're not going to win this, Elise. You're going to drag this through the courts, spend whatever money you've managed to scrape together, and in the end you'll lose everything. Again. Maya turned to face her. Where did you get the original audio files? The ones you used to fake my confession? For just a second, Marla's smile slipped. I don't know what you're talking about. The recording you played for Victor, the one that made him think I was betraying him. It was good work, really good, but it was fake, and I want to know who helped you make it. You're delusional. Am I? Because I'm betting you kept the source files, insurance, in case Victor ever turned on you. You're smart enough to know he's not loyal. Maya leaned in. Where are they, Marla? Still on your computer? Cloud storage? Hidden somewhere in my house? Marla's eyes went cold. You're never getting that house back. It's mine now. Everything in it is mine. Victor gave it to me. Victor can't give away what isn't his. We're still married. Everything we own together is still legally mine. Not for long. Victor's filing for divorce. Mental abandonment. He'll get everything, and you'll get nothing. Let him try, Maya smiled. I'll see you in court. She walked away before Marla could respond, forcing herself not to run, not to look back. The surveillance team would have caught everything. Marla approaching her, the conversation, the implicit threats. More evidence for the pile. Back in her apartment, Agent Cole was waiting with a grim expression. Victor's making his move, she said without preamble. We just got word from our financial crimes team. He's liquidating assets, transferring money to offshore accounts we can't touch. If he empties everything before we can freeze it, he'll disappear, Maya finished. Take Marla and run somewhere without extradition. Exactly, which means we need to move faster than we planned. Agent Cole pulled out her phone. I'm calling the DA. We have enough for charges. Attempted murder, witness intimidation, financial crimes. It's not perfect, but it's enough to get a warrant. Do it. The arrest happened at dawn. Maya watched from her apartment window as police cars and FBI vans surrounded the clifftop mansion that had once been hers. She'd expected to feel triumph, vindication, something clean and sharp. Instead, she felt hollow. This was it. The ending she'd worked toward for 4 years. And all she could think about was Miles, waking up at Nolan's house, asking when Mama was coming home. Her phone buzzed. Agent Cole. We've got Victor in custody, clean arrest, no resistance. He's lawyered up, but that's expected. A pause. Marla's not here, though. What do you mean she's not there? I mean, the house is empty except for Victor. No sign of Marla Voss. No sign she's been here recently. Maya's stomach dropped. She ran. Looks like it. We've got an APB out, but if she left before dawn, she could be anywhere. Maya was about to respond when she heard it. A crash from somewhere in the building. Breaking glass. Agent Wong's voice through the surveillance system, sharp and urgent. Breach on the stairwell. Unknown individual. Armed. The door to Maya's apartment exploded inward. Marla stood in the hallway, wild-eyed, holding a gun that shook in her grip. Behind her, Maya could hear pounding footsteps, agents responding to the breach. But Marla was already inside, already aiming. You ruined everything. Marla's voice was ragged, desperate. Everything I worked for, everything I built. He was supposed to marry me, give me the life you threw away. But you couldn't let it go, could you? Marla put the gun down. Maya raised her hand slowly. This doesn't end well for you. It doesn't end well for you either. Marla's finger tightened on the trigger. If I can't have Victor, if I can't have the house, the money, the life, then neither can you. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Maya felt impact, not pain, not immediately, just force that spun her sideways. She hit the floor hard, her vision going gray at the edges. More shots. Different guns, agents pouring into the room, shouting commands. Marla screaming something Maya couldn't parse. the ceiling spinning overhead, then Nolan's face appearing from nowhere, his hands pressing against Maya's shoulder where warmth was spreading. Stay with me. Come on, Maya, stay with me. Miles, Maya managed. Tell him. You're going to tell him yourself. Nolan's voice was fierce. You're not dying. I won't let you. The world faded to black before Maya could argue. She woke to white walls and the steady beep of monitors. Hospital, the smell of antiseptic, voices murmuring somewhere beyond her field of vision. Pain in her shoulder, but distant, muted by whatever drugs they'd pumped into her system. Maya. Nolan's voice, rough with exhaustion. Thank God. She turned her head slowly. He was sitting beside her bed, unshaven, wearing the same clothes he'd been wearing when... Miles. The word came out as a croak. Where's Miles? Safe, still at my place with Rebecca. He doesn't know anything happened. Nolan reached for her hand. You've been out for 18 hours. The bullet hit your shoulder, through and through, missed everything vital. The doctors say you were lucky. Marla. In custody. She's facing attempted murder, breaking and entering, weapons charges. The FBI has her on video shooting you. It's over. Maya closed her eyes. Over. The word should have brought relief, but all she felt was tired. So tired she could sleep for a year. Victor? She managed. Arraigned this morning. Denied bail. Flight risk. He's looking at 20 years minimum on the financial crimes alone, and that's before the DA adds attempted murder charges for what he did to you the night of the hurricane. Nolan squeezed her hand gently. Agent Cole used everything you gave them. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence you spent 4 years collecting. The case is airtight. The house? Legally yours again as of yesterday. The courts ruled in your favor. Marriage never dissolved. Property still jointly held. Victor's assets are frozen pending trial. Marla has to vacate within 30 days. He paused. Though I'm guessing you don't actually want to live there. Maya thought about the mansion on the cliff, about rain and locked doors and the sound of her own screams. No, I never want to see that place again. Then we'll sell it. Use the money to build something new. We? Nolan looked uncomfortable. I meant you. You'll use the money. I shouldn't have... Nolan. Maya tightened her grip on his hand. You've been using we for 4 years now. Don't stop just because the hard part's over. He smiled, some of the tension leaving his face. Okay, we'll sell it. Agent Cole appeared in the doorway, holding a folder that Maya recognized as her case file. You're awake. Good. We need your statement about what happened yesterday. Can it wait? Nolan's voice was sharp. She just woke up. It's fine. Maya shifted slightly, wincing at the pull in her shoulder. I want to get it over with. Agent Cole pulled up a chair. Walk me through everything from the moment Marla entered your apartment. Maya recounted it all. Marla's wild eyes, the gun shaking in her grip, the words she'd screamed about ruining everything. Agent Cole took notes, occasionally asking for clarification, her expression professionally neutral. Here's what we know from our end, Agent Cole said when Maya finished. Marla left the mansion around 4 a.m. yesterday, about an hour before we executed the arrest warrant. She'd been monitoring police scanners. We found the equipment in her car. When she heard chatter about a major operation at Victor's location, she panicked and ran. But she came to my apartment instead of leaving town, because she blamed you for everything falling apart. The surveillance footage we recovered from your building shows her in the parking garage for almost an hour, just sitting in her car. We think she was working up the courage. Agent Cole flipped through her notes. She's claiming temporary insanity now. Says the stress of Victor's arrest broke her, made her not responsible for her actions. Will that work? Maya asked. No, she brought a gun to your apartment, broke down the door, shot you in front of 6 FBI agents and 3 video cameras. There's no version of this where she walks free. Agent Cole leaned back. But I wanted you to know what her defense strategy is, in case you're called to testify. I'll testify. Maya's voice was firm. Whatever it takes. Good. Agent Cole stood. One more thing. We found something interesting during the search of the mansion. A safe deposit box key hidden in Marla's bathroom. We traced it to a bank downtown, got a warrant to open it. And? Original source files for the audio recording she used against you. Time-stamped, complete with editing software metadata showing exactly how she spliced together clips of your voice from phone calls and security footage to create a fake confession. Agent Cole's smile was grim. She kept it as insurance against Victor. Thought if he ever tried to get rid of her, she could prove he'd acted on false information. Instead, it proved she orchestrated the whole thing. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. She tried to have me killed. Not just that night, she deliberately created evidence to make Victor think I was a traitor, knowing exactly how he'd react. Premeditated attempted murder, Agent Cole confirmed. We're adding charges. With the recording, the shooting, and everything else, Marla's looking at life without parole. After Agent Cole left, Maya lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. Life without parole for Marla. 20-plus years for Victor. Justice, the legal kind, exactly what she'd worked toward. So why did she feel so empty? You're thinking too hard, Nolan said quietly. I can practically hear the gears turning. I spent 4 years planning this. 4 years building evidence, gathering ammunition, preparing for the moment when Victor would face consequences. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. And now it's here, and I don't know what happens next. You heal. You get your life back. You raise your son. As who? Maya Winters doesn't exist anymore. Elise Hart is a name attached to too much trauma. Who am I supposed to be? Whoever you want to be. Nolan stood, moved to the window. Outside, the city sprawled in afternoon sunlight, ordinary and indifferent to the small dramas playing out in hospital rooms. You don't have to decide today, or tomorrow. Take your time figuring it out. I want to see Miles. Tomorrow. The doctors want to keep you one more night for observation, make sure there's no infection. Then I'll bring him. Maya nodded, suddenly exhausted again. Nolan, thank you. For everything. For saving us that night. For helping me plan this. For keeping Miles safe. I know I've said it before, but I need you to really hear it. You gave me my life back. You saved yourself, Maya. I just provided resources. He turned from the window. But you're welcome. And for what it's worth, I'm glad you survived. Both times. She fell asleep before she could respond, and when she woke again, it was dark outside, and Rebecca was sitting where Nolan had been. Nolan's girlfriend, fiancée now, judging by the ring on her left hand, was younger than Maya had expected. Early 30s, dark hair pulled into a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater that suggested she'd come straight from somewhere casual. Sorry, Rebecca said when she noticed Maya was awake. Nolan had to take Miles to his soccer practice. He asked me to sit with you until he got back. I hope that's okay. You don't have to babysit me. I'm not. I wanted to meet you. Rebecca smiled. Nolan's told me some things, obviously not everything, but enough to know you've been through hell, and I wanted to say thank you. For what? For trusting him with Miles. Nolan doesn't talk about his past much, about the people he's lost, but I know taking care of your son has been important to him, given him something to focus on besides work. Rebecca paused. Miles is a great kid, by the way. Smart, funny, completely obsessed with astronauts. He wants to go to Mars, Maya said softly. Started talking about it when he was 3. I don't know where he got the idea. Nolan bought him a telescope. They've been stargazing at night when the weather's clear. Rebecca's expression was gentle. He's been safe, Maya. And happy, I promise. Tears burned Maya's eyes. Thank you for helping take care of him, for being patient with all of this. Nolan loves you, Rebecca said simply. Not romantically, I know that. But he loves you like family, and that means Miles is family too. I'm okay with that. They sat in comfortable silence until Nolan returned with Miles, who came barreling into the room with all the energy of a 4-year-old who'd been told to be careful and immediately forgot. Mama! He stopped at the edge of the bed, suddenly uncertain. Uncle Nolan said you got hurt. Just a little bit. Maya held out her good arm. Come here, baby. Miles climbed carefully onto the bed, settling against her side. He smelled like grass and sunshine and the particular sweetness of children who'd been playing hard. Does it hurt? Not too much. The doctors gave me medicine. Good. He showed her a drawing he'd made. Stick figures labeled Mama, Miles, Uncle Nolan, Rebecca, and Scout the dog. I made you a picture. Uncle Nolan said it would make you feel better. It does. It's beautiful. Maya kissed the top of his head. Did you have fun at Uncle Nolan's? Yeah, we saw Saturn through the telescope, and Rebecca taught me how to make cookies. and Scout lets me throw the ball for him. Miles looked up at her with eyes that were pure Victor, dark and intense, but with an openness Victor had never possessed. Are we going home now? Soon. Mama has to heal first. Is that okay? Okay. Miles settled more comfortably against her. Can we get a dog when we go home? Maya looked at Nolan, who was trying not to smile. We'll talk about it. The trial happened faster than Maya expected. Victor's lawyers tried every delay tactic in the book, but with the evidence stacked against him and the federal government pushing for a quick resolution, the case moved forward at unprecedented speed. Maya testified on a cool morning in October, 6 months after Marla had shot her. She wore a navy suit that Rebecca had helped her pick out. Professional, conservative, nothing that would distract from her testimony. Her shoulder still ached when the weather changed, a permanent reminder of how close she'd come to dying. The courtroom was packed. Media in the back rows, sketch artists frantically drawing, Victor's remaining associates watching with carefully neutral expressions. And Victor himself, sitting at the defendant's table in a suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. His expression blank. He didn't look at her when she entered, didn't acknowledge her presence at all, as if she was still dead, still the ghost he'd tried to create. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Catherine Wells, guided Maya through her testimony. The night of the hurricane. Victor's accusations. Marla's manufactured evidence. The terrace doors locking. And what happened after your husband locked you outside in the hurricane? Wells asked. Maya kept her voice steady. I tried to get back in, pounded on the doors, screamed for help. The contractions were already starting. The stress and cold had triggered early labor. When I realized Victor wasn't going to let me back in, I tried to reach the front gates. Were you able to? Barely. I collapsed at the gates. If Nolan Pierce hadn't been driving by, her voice caught. If he hadn't seen me, hadn't gotten me to Dr. Chen's clinic, both my son and I would have died that night. Your son. Wells pulled out a photo. Miles at 3 months old, the earliest picture Maya had. This is Miles Hart, correct? Born the night of the hurricane? Yes. And did you ever tell the defendant about his son's survival? No, I couldn't. Victor had tried to kill us. I had to protect Miles. Victor's lawyer, a silver-haired man named Marcus Hale, stood for cross-examination. Mrs. Raines? Or do you prefer Ms. Hart now? Hart. Ms. Hart, you claim my client locked you outside during a hurricane with the intent to kill you. Yet you have no physical evidence of this, correct? No video, no witnesses besides yourself? Marla Voss was there. She witnessed everything. Ms. Voss, who is currently facing her own charges and has every reason to lie to reduce her sentence. Hale smiled coldly. Convenient that your only witness is someone who benefits from corroborating your story. Marla doesn't benefit from the truth. The truth is that she created fake evidence to make Victor think I was betraying him. She orchestrated the whole situation. According to audio files that Ms. Voss claims were planted in her possession by unknown parties, we only have your word that she created them. You have the metadata. Maya's voice was sharp. Timestamps showing exactly when the files were edited. Software traces proving what tools were used. That's not my word, that's digital forensics, which can be manipulated by anyone with sufficient technical knowledge. Hale paced in front of the jury box. Ms. Hart, isn't it true that you disappeared for 4 years, living under a false identity, working for a security firm that gave you access to exactly the kind of technical resources needed to fabricate evidence? I didn't fabricate anything. You admit to using a false identity, to illegally accessing client databases, to conducting surveillance on my client without a warrant, and yet you expect this jury to believe you're a credible witness? Maya met his eyes. I expect this jury to look at the evidence, the financial records showing your client's money laundering, the witness testimony from Jonathan Reeves and 6 other people who worked in his organization, the recorded phone calls where Victor threatened me, the video of Marla Voss shooting me in my apartment. I'm just one piece of a much larger case. A piece with an obvious bias. You want revenge against the man who you claim tried to kill you. I want justice, Maya corrected. There's a difference. The prosecution rested after 3 weeks of testimony. The defense tried to paint Victor as a legitimate businessman persecuted by overzealous federal agents and a vindictive ex-wife. But the evidence was overwhelming. Transaction records, witness testimony, recordings, forensic accounting that showed years of financial crimes. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. Maya was home with Miles when the verdict came through. She'd chosen not to be in the courtroom, not to give Victor the satisfaction of seeing her reaction. Agent Cole called to deliver the news. 25 years on the financial crimes, another 15 for attempted murder. The judge ordered the sentences to run consecutively. Agent Cole's voice was satisfied. Victor Raines is going to die in prison. Maya felt something release in her chest. A tension she'd been carrying for so long she'd forgotten it was there. Thank you for everything. You did the hard work. We just helped you cross the finish line. Agent Cole paused. What are you going to do now? I don't know. Live, I guess. Figure out what normal looks like. Marla's trial was shorter. With the video evidence of her shooting Maya and the forensic proof that she'd manufactured the audio recording, her lawyer advised her to plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. She got 30 years with possibility of parole after 20. Maya attended Marla's sentencing, sitting in the back row where Marla couldn't see her. She watched the woman who'd once stood beside Victor and laughed while Maya pounded on locked doors, watched her cry and beg for mercy from a judge who had none to give. And Maya felt nothing, no triumph, no satisfaction, no anger, just a distant acknowledgement that this chapter was finally closed. The mansion sold for $8 million. Maya kept none of the furniture, had everything auctioned off and donated the proceeds to women's shelters and organizations that help domestic violence survivors. The house itself went to a tech executive who planned to tear it down and build something modern. Maya was glad. Let someone erase that place the way Victor had tried to erase her. With the money from the sale and Victor's assets that the courts had awarded her in the divorce settlement, finalized 3 months after his conviction, Maya was wealthier than she'd ever been as Victor's wife. Wealthy enough to do whatever she wanted, go anywhere, be anyone. She chose to stay. Pierce Security Solutions needed a new senior analyst. Teresa was retiring to spend more time with her grandchildren, and Nolan offered Maya the position. Real credentials this time, not a manufactured identity. Elise Hart, security consultant, specializing in financial crimes investigation. You sure about this? Nolan asked when she accepted. You don't have to work. You could travel, go back to school, anything. I'm sure. This is what I'm good at. What I've spent 4 years learning. Maya smiled. Besides, someone has to make sure you're not taking on any more revenge-seeking clients who might shoot people in their apartments. That was one time. And technically, you were the revenge-seeking client. Exactly. I know what to look for. She bought a house in the suburbs, close enough to Nolan and Rebecca that Miles could still visit his Uncle Nolan regularly, but far enough from downtown that the city noise didn't keep her awake. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a normal house on a normal street with normal neighbors who knew nothing about hurricanes or attempted murder, or 4 years of carefully orchestrated revenge. Miles started kindergarten, made friends, brought home artwork and spelling tests and stories about playground adventures. He asked about his father exactly once. Where's my daddy? Maya had prepared for this question, had practiced the answer with Dr. Chen, the therapist, not the doctor who delivered Miles, until she could say it without her voice shaking. Your daddy made some bad choices. He hurt people, including me and you, before you were born. He's in a place where people go when they've done things that aren't allowed, and he can't be part of our lives. Because he was bad. Because he made bad choices. People aren't just good or bad, sweetheart. They're complicated. But yes, the choices he made mean he can't be your daddy. Miles considered this with the seriousness of a 5-year-old processing difficult information. Is Uncle Nolan my daddy now? No, Uncle Nolan is Uncle Nolan, but he loves you very much and he'll always be there for you. So will Rebecca and Mama. You have lots of people who love you. Okay. Miles went back to his coloring book, apparently satisfied. Maya waited until he was in bed before she allowed herself to cry. Not for Victor, but for the version of their life that might have existed if he'd been a different man. If he'd chosen love over power, truth over control. A version where Miles would have grown up knowing his father. But that version had never been possible. Victor was who he was. And Maya had done what she needed to do to survive him. Rebecca and Nolan got married in the spring. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Miles was the ring bearer, taking his job so seriously that he walked down the aisle like he was carrying nuclear codes. Maya stood beside Rebecca as a bridesmaid, watching Nolan's face as his bride approached. seeing the kind of uncomplicated joy she'd once thought existed in her own marriage. At the reception, Nolan pulled Maya aside. "I have something for you." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a check, more money than Maya could process at first glance. "What is this?" "Your cut of the Westport financial contract. After we exposed Reeves and the money laundering operation, Westport hired us to completely overhaul their security and compliance systems. It's been our biggest contract ever. You're the one who found Reeves in the first place. This is your percentage." Nolan smiled. "Consider it a signing bonus for joining the firm permanently." Maya stared at the check. "Nolan, this is too much." "It's exactly what you earned. What you've always earned. You brought down Victor Raines, helped the FBI build an airtight case, and proved that systematic financial crimes can be unraveled with good investigation and better analysis." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "You're not a victim anymore, Maya. You're not even a survivor. You're an expert in your field. Act like it." She deposited the check, used part of it to set up a college fund for Miles. Part went to Dr. Sarah Chen's clinic anonymously, ensuring other women in crisis would have somewhere to go. And part went into a trust for organizations fighting domestic violence, because Maya knew there were other women out there, trapped in other mansions with other men who thought love meant ownership. Years passed in a rhythm of school years and soccer seasons and summer vacations. Miles grew tall and curious, inherited his father's dark eyes, but his mother's stubborn determination. He never asked about Victor again, seemed content with the family they'd built from remnants and determination. Maya dated occasionally. Rebecca set her up with a colleague, and there was a brief thing with one of Miles's teachers that ended amicably when they realized they wanted different things. But mostly she focused on work and Miles and building a life that felt solid, real. She kept track of Victor through Agent Cole, who'd become something like a friend in the years since the trial. He'd been transferred to a federal facility in Pennsylvania, lost in appeal. Spent his days in prison, just like the people whose lives he'd destroyed. Marla was in a different facility, in Oregon. They would never see each other again. On the 5th anniversary of the verdict, Maya received a letter forwarded through her lawyer, Victor's handwriting on the envelope. She almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity, or maybe a need for closure, made her break the seal. The letter was short. "Elise, I know you'll never forgive me. I'm not asking you to. I'm not even asking you to believe this, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. For that night, for everything. You deserve better. Miles deserved better. I was angry and paranoid and convinced that power was the only thing that mattered. I was wrong. I've had a lot of time to think about that, about who I was and what I destroyed. I can't fix it, can't take it back. But I'm sorry. I hope you've built a good life. I hope Miles is happy. And I hope someday you can think about what we had before everything went wrong and remember that some of it was real. At least on my end. Victor." Maya read it twice. Then she put it through her shredder and took Miles to the park. Some apologies were too late. Some wounds didn't heal just because someone finally acknowledged they'd caused them. Victor was sorry. Fine. He could be sorry in prison for the next 40 years. It didn't change anything. What changed things was Miles laughing on the swings, was the house she'd bought with money she'd earned, was the career she'd built and the people she'd helped, and the mornings she woke up without fear. That was the life Victor's actions had inadvertently given her. Not the one he'd intended. He'd meant to erase her, silence her, make her disappear. Instead, he'd forced her to become someone stronger, someone capable, someone who'd looked at impossible odds and decided to fight anyway. Miles turned 10, started asking questions about maybe joining the school's robotics club, about whether they could get a telescope like Uncle Nolan's, about whether Mars would really be colonized in his lifetime. Maya listened to his dreams and thought about the night he'd been born, in a hurricane, in a clinic with no birth certificate, to a mother who'd been left for dead. He'd come so far. They both had. On Miles's 11th birthday, Maya took him to the courthouse. She'd been planning this for months, working with lawyers, filling out paperwork, making sure everything was perfect. "Why are we here?" Miles asked, looking around the marble hallways with curiosity. "Because I have a present for you." Maya knelt down to his level. "A really big one, but I need you to understand what it means first. Okay? When you were born, Mama was in a difficult situation. I had to give you a made-up last name to keep you safe. Winters. Maya and Miles Winters. But that was never our real name. Miles's eyes went wide. What's our real name? Hart. Elise and Miles Hart. Maya pulled out the paperwork. And today, if you want to, we're making it official, changing your name legally, so you'll be Miles Hart for real, forever. What about my first dad? Don't I have his name? Maya had prepared for this too. Your biological father's name was Rains, but he gave up the right to be your father when he tried to hurt us. You don't have to carry his name if you don't want to. You get to choose. Miles thought about this seriously. I want to be Miles Hart, like you. You're sure? I'm sure. We're a team, Mama. We should have the same name. The paperwork was processed in 30 minutes. Miles Hart walked out of the courthouse with a new birth certificate, a new identity, and the kind of joy that only children who've been given something precious can feel. That night, Maya found him in his room, looking at the framed birth certificate she'd hung on his wall. Mama? He turned to her. When I'm older, will you tell me about my first dad? Not because I want him to be my dad, just because I want to know where I came from? Maya's throat tightened. Yes. When you're older, I'll tell you everything, the good parts and the hard parts. And you can decide how you feel about all of it. Okay. Miles hugged her. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. More than anything in the world. At 15, Miles did ask for the whole story. Maya told it over a weekend, sitting in their living room with photo albums and old newspaper clippings, and the kind of honesty she'd promised herself she'd give him when the time came. She told him about meeting Victor, about the whirlwind romance that had seemed like a fairy tale, about the slow realization that the man she'd married wasn't who she'd thought, about the hurricane and Nolan and Dr. Chen and the 4 years spent building a case. Miles listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. That must have been scary, he said finally. It was terrifying, but I had you, and I couldn't let anything happen to you. Do you ever wish he was different? That he could have been a real dad? Maya considered the question honestly. Sometimes. Not because I want him back, I don't, but because you deserved a father who loved you, and he was too broken to be that person. I have Uncle Nolan and Aunt Rebecca, and you. Miles smiled, still open, still trusting, despite everything he'd just learned. That's enough. Maya graduated from Pierce Security Solutions 3 years later when Nolan retired and sold her the company. Hart Security Consulting specialized in financial crimes investigation and helping law enforcement build cases against organized crime. Maya hired a team of analysts who'd been through their own traumas, who understood that justice sometimes required patience and precision and the willingness to wait years for the right moment. She helped bring down 4 major crime organizations in 6 years, each one meticulously researched, carefully documented, handed to federal prosecutors in packages so complete that convictions were almost guaranteed. Victor remained in prison. Maya stopped checking on him after the first decade. He'd become irrelevant, just a man who'd made choices that destroyed his own life. He wasn't a threat anymore, barely even a memory. Marla was released after serving 22 years. Maya heard through Agent Cole, who'd kept tabs even after retiring. Marla moved to a halfway house in Oregon, started working at a grocery store under a new name. She would never testify about what really happened that night. Her plea deal had included a permanent gag order, but she was free in a limited sense. Maya felt nothing about it. Marla had paid for her crimes. What she did with the rest of her life wasn't Maya's concern. Miles graduated high school with honors, got accepted to MIT for aerospace engineering, told Maya he still planned to go to Mars someday, and she believed him. He had the determination of someone who'd survived the impossible before he could even remember it. At his graduation party, surrounded by friends and classmates and the family they'd built from nothing, Miles gave a speech. Thanked his mother for everything she'd sacrificed. Thanked Uncle Nolan for teaching him about integrity. Thanked Aunt Rebecca for showing him what healthy love looked like. He didn't mention Victor once. Later, when the guests had left and they were cleaning up, Miles found Maya on the back porch. "Mom," he said. He'd stopped calling her Mama around 13. "I want you to know something." "What's that?" "I'm glad you survived. I'm glad you fought. And I'm glad you chose to be my mother instead of letting what happened to you define everything." He hugged her tight. "You're the strongest person I know." Maya held her son, taller than her now, strong and confident and whole, and felt the last piece of her anger dissolve. Victor had tried to destroy her, had thrown her away like garbage, left her to die, thought he'd erased the problem named Elise Hart. Instead, he'd created something far more dangerous. A woman who'd learned she was capable of surviving anything, who'd learned patience and strategy and the power of working within systems to tear down men who thought they were untouchable. Victor Reigns had tried to kill Elise Hart. He'd succeeded only in creating someone who refused to stay dead, and in the end, that had made all the difference. 25 years after the hurricane, Maya stood in the office of Hart Security Consulting, looking at the city spread out below. Miles was finishing his doctorate at MIT, engaged to a brilliant woman named Sarah, who made him laugh and challenged him to be better. Nolan and Rebecca had retired to Maine, where they ran a bed and breakfast and sent photos of scenic coastlines. Agent Cole had passed away 2 years prior. Cancer, quick, and merciless. At her funeral, her colleagues had told stories about the cases she'd broken, the criminals she'd helped put away. Victor Reigns was mentioned exactly once, as just another name on a long list of victories. That was what he'd become. A footnote. A cautionary tale. One case among hundreds. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. New client consultation in 10 minutes. Woman says her husband tried to kill her. No one believes her. Says she heard you help people like her. Maya looked at the text for a long moment. Then she typed back. Send her in and clear my afternoon. This might take a while. Because there would always be more Elises. More women thrown away by men who thought power meant ownership. More survivors who needed someone to believe them, to help them fight back. To show them that survival was just the beginning. And Maya would be there. Not out of revenge anymore. That fire had long since burned out. But out of something deeper. The understanding that she'd been given a second chance, not just to live, but to make sure other women got their second chances too. Victor Reigns was 68 years old now, serving his 40th year in federal prison with no hope of parole. He would die there, forgotten by everyone except the lawyers who'd represented him, and the victims who'd survived him. Maya was 52, running a successful business, planning a trip to MIT for Miles's dissertation defense, living a life so full and rich that some days she forgot she'd ever been anyone other than who she was now. That was the real victory, not the trial or the conviction or the empire she'd helped destroy. The real victory was standing in her office, about to help another survivor, living proof that men like Victor Reigns didn't get to write the ending. The women they tried to erase got to write it instead. And Maya's ending was still being written. One day, one case, one woman saved at a time. The intercom buzzed. Miss Hart, your client is here. Maya straightened her jacket, squared her shoulders, and smiled. Send her in. She was ready. She was always ready, because some women don't break. They sharpen themselves on betrayal and come back stronger than anyone ever expected. And that, Maya knew, was the truest kind of justice.